when it comes to opera, the Italians rule the world, then we can add the French, the Germans, the Russians, the Czech. Poland is almost nowhere to be found on that map, but yet there are a few nuggets like King Roger, who are very often, more often than not, staged here in America. One of those rare occasions will happen in Des Moines, Iowa this summer. The Des Moines Metro Opera decided to stage King Roger, a wonderful Szymanowski's opera, and we have two guests today, straight from Des Moines, who will tell us all about that upcoming production. Lydia Katarina, soprano,
Hello.
who will be singing the role of Roksana,
Yes, hello.
and director of that opera, Michael Egel. Michael, welcome.
Nice to meet you.
How did it happen? Because whenever you, as a director, put together a repertoire for a new season, as I said, you look for Italian, you look for nuggets. There is a lot of contemporary shows that you put up. Why King Roger? Why Polish opera?
Well, the short answer is that it has been on our wish list for at least 10 years,
Wow.
if not longer, to do this piece. Over the course of a season, we do 3 operas in repertory, so an audience can come for the weekend and see something on Friday, something on Saturday, and something on Sunday. And so we spend a lot of time really thinking about the mixture of those 3 pieces, how they work with one another in conversation, how different composers are responding to one another over style periods and languages. And I think that makes for the entire festival experience to be really, really fascinating. One of the things that we have found to be very important and not often done is to occupy a niche of repertory from the early part of the 20th century, and particularly countries in Eastern Europe or Northern Europe, and also in America. And putting those pieces that are seldom done anymore, that are maybe off the beaten track, together in conversation with each other in unique combinations, and King Roger is certainly it. In recent years, we've made a commitment to add new languages, new composers and countries, music from other countries to our repertory. We've had the good fortune to do Czech and to do Hungarian and Russian. So it was only a matter of time till we got to Polish, and I have been fascinated by this enigmatic piece for a number of years. And to top it all off, it's celebrating its 100th anniversary of its premiere on June 19th, 1926. It had its premiere in Warsaw.
In Warsaw, yeah. Now fast forward 100 years, and another brand new production right there in Iowa. Is it a risk to stage operas like this? I'm talking purely from the business standpoint, because Traviata, Tosca, Carmen, Il Trovatore, these are smashing successes, guaranteed full houses. When you dig deeper, do you consider that a risk, or it's going to be a success regardless?
I think that we in Des Moines Metro Opera occupy a really envious position in the ability to take on pieces such as King Roger or The Love for Three Oranges or The Cunning Little Vixen of Janacek, and not have it be a big risk. We've been fortunate to occupy about 92% and above of our seats sold.
Wow.
An increasing number of people are coming from Chicago every year to experience the entire festival. I think that risk is best characterized or talked about in terms of how pieces work together, of how you program pieces and what people are interested in seeing together and seeing it at the same time. So I don't think of it as a risky choice for us. I know that we've cultivated an audience really interested in and curious about different repertory, things that they won't see other places. So we've been fortunate to have curated the last 10 seasons with little, if any, Verdi and Mozart, and instead Prokofiev and Janacek and now Szymanowski. and have it be successful and be sold out. So for us, I will say that it is less risky than it might be for other organizations.
Before we move on to King Roger, one more question about the opera house. Because this is, if you, ladies and gentlemen, think about the traditional opera house with a huge opera far, far away, separated by an orchestra pit, think again, because you have in Des Moines something that's totally unusual.
And that's one of our, another key to our success in addition to the unusual repertory is the venue. It's a 500-seat theater with a typical proscenium opening, but then also what we call a playing circle that moves out into the audience area in front of the orchestra pit. So the orchestra is actually performing in an orchestra pit in the center of the stage. And we often will joke in our marketing that if you were to be any closer to the stage, you would need to put on a costume to be you're practically a part of the show. And it's that opportunity to examine pieces in close proximity through a different lens that attracts audiences, not just from Chicago and the Chicago area, but from 40 other states and around the world to see opera in a way that you won't be able to see it anyplace else. And in truth, I think that's also enables us to cultivate risk and to foster curiosity about all types of repertory.
Lydia, and here question to you. Which setting do you prefer as a singer? Would you rather be on a super large stage farther away from the audience or up close in person?
I actually, fortune would have it, I have experience in very small theaters because I did my training at the Academy of Vocal Arts in Philadelphia, which has its own theater, which is only about 100 seats. So it's another intimate setting, and that's where I did all of my operatic training. And so for me, I love the intimacy of that. It's a very special, different experience. You're very close with the orchestra, you're very close with the audience. And so for me, I'm very excited to see this theater in Des Moines. I have not yet seen it, but I think that I may have a unique background in being able to deal with small theater. However, I have sung on some of the biggest opera stages in the world, and I really like that as well. It's a totally different feeling. You send the energy in a different way, but I think they both have their place, and I enjoy both.
Wow. You play one of the more challenging characters. It's a play, essentially, King Roger, of three main characters, right? You are the main female character. We'll get back to that later, but let's start. You said it's an enigmatic piece, and I think a lot of that starts from the authors, from Szymanowski himself and Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz, who wrote the libretto. What can you tell us about them?
Well, Szymanowski, next to Chopin, I think is one of the most preeminent composers to have emerged from the Polish nation, and it is a real treat for us to be presenting this music because I think it's much like Janacek in the last, let's say, 50 years. A composer that people are increasingly turning to and fascinated by, intrigued by exploring. So it's really exciting for us to present this work. It's also an appealing piece. I think any kind of opera that occupies a space where the narrative is not necessarily direct and linear, but is open to a variety of viewpoints is sometimes some of the most fascinating types of work to produce. And I can't think of many more pieces that have so many themes working, in parallel to one another or in opposition to one another, and depending on how the opera is staged, you can take something different away from what the ending means. I don't want to give away the end of the story, and actually there isn't it's hard to give away the ending because everybody will take something different from how it resolves itself.
That's what Szymanowski wanted. He even wrote about that he wants the viewer to be stupefied at the end of the show and wondering for, I don't know, days, months, weeks, what the bleep did he really mean? What did he want from us?
Exactly.
But those stick the most, right? Those resonate the hardest.
Well, and those are the most fun to create when you're creating a physical production. When you're thinking about the characters, you know, how how you'll cast the singers and how those singers will occupy those roles. You know, what they will bring to it and what the audience will take away. I know Szymanowski lived, I think, another 10 or so years after the premiere of King Roger, and lamented the fact that you know, he really thought it was maybe the high point of his compositional career, and something he probably would never write anything quite as overwhelming, and that, you know, that even overcame him a bit through the process of writing it. And you know, sort of remained one of those the big touchstone for him, and I'm excited that people are now starting to rediscover it. I don't know, I don't rediscover isn't the right word, but certainly in this country, audiences are starting to, you know, cultivate that curiosity about this piece, and I'm hoping we'll see more and more performances of it as time goes on. And
it's not a traditional Polish opera. If you think about Polish opera, you think about Haunted Mansion, you think about Halka, that are happening in Poland with people running around in Polish costumes. Szymanowski takes us to Sicily, and he blends three different eras of Sicily. Well, and you know, Szymanowski was well-traveled and was able to spend a good deal of his formative years not just around Europe and idolizing Wagner, I think, and championing was a quote from him after seeing Elektra that he thought it was one of the most transformative operas he had ever seen, but also then bringing those pieces back to Europe. He had very discerning taste. He was a big fan of Wozzeck, but less so of Schoenberg, and also was a champion for Stravinsky and Debussy and other composers back in Poland when he was director of the conservatory. But in addition to traveling in Europe, he was in North Africa, in Islamic countries, and really, as you say, this isn't a conventional Polish opera at all. It's certainly not like Halka. It is music of the Byzantine Empire, of the Islamic faith, Greek tragedy, all kind of seen through the lens of a early 20th century Polish composer. And so it makes for a really interesting melding of styles and periods and voice and that sort of thing. Yeah, and he uses everything that he has in his arsenal as a composer, in terms of metro 7/8 tempo in some areas, and double reed instruments. Those create these, especially in the second act, right? And the Eastern Orthodox choral tradition in the first act. There's, you know, and this opera requires a huge chorus, children's chorus, etc. How many will you feature? We will have, I think, around 70. I've not counted the exact number, but somewhere around 70, including dancers. There's a bacchanal in Act 2. So. Huge production. So essentially, King Roger is a story of what? Sicilian king that is all of a sudden challenged by this shepherd, a mysterious figure who appears and takes over control of his kingdom, so to say, definitely his court, and ultimately his wife. And Roger summons him for a trial. People compare that to a trial of Jesus in front of King Pilate. But it turns out that it's Roger who loses everything. Instead of the shepherd, he loses his wife, he loses his kingdom, and essentially is being transformed at the end. Everybody can interpret that story in different ways. How do you guys interpret that? What does this opera mean to you, the story of King Roger? Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I have to say, I'm sure that I'm going to be thinking and pondering this long after I'm done performing the role. As I'm preparing it, I can see so many different sides to it, so I don't have a very straight answer for that at this time. But one thing that I really am thinking of quite a lot is the role of Roxana with her husband, King Roger, and how she speaks in the first act, and she says, wait, but I'm wondering, as a woman, how was her word accepted by him in that moment. He listens to her, and then she is the one that ultimately, towards the end, draws him to the shepherd. And so, I mean, you can interpret it in many different ways, as you said, but I find that very fascinating, perhaps a bit ahead of his time.
Yeah.
As a woman, she's the first one to speak on behalf of the shepherd, and then she is the one to join him, and then she is the one leading King Roger in the end and drawing him. And so I'm continuing to think about that and develop that, and I'm sure that the director is going to have many thoughts.
His visions, 100%.
Yes.
Michael, what is King Roger to you?
You know, sitting at this end of the rehearsal process, before we've gathered all of the singers together to begin to create our telling of the story, the way I view this opera is it's a philosophical story of an unanticipated but quite forceful offer or opportunity to transform, to change one's life. I choose to view, not only does Roxana and the court come with this opportunity to completely rethink their moments, their lives, but I think Roger does too, and I choose to see this as a story of his transformation, of completely unexpected, unanticipated, but unavoidable opportunity to embrace a new life. And you know, I think as that relates to today's world, we all go through sort of these life-altering moments at different points in our journeys where things are never quite the same. We don't anticipate them, but they happen. And we know after that's over, we'll never quite be the same. I think that's what this opera is about.
People can interpret that as a clash of systems, like on a political platform, like a king pretty much losing his kingdom, losing his grasp on his kingdom. To me, it's a marital story. It's the dynamic between the King Roger and Roxana. Like, Roxana did not see the shepherd, and yet she's super intrigued, super drawn to him. She's pretty much advocate for the shepherd at the very beginning. And
she's the first advocate for him.
Yes.
Exactly. And then I think Roger realizes that his wife, even in front of him, is drawn more to the shepherd. He's calling her repeatedly, Roxana, like, get your things under control, return to me. And she just refuses. So the dynamic between husband and wife, that's something that's super deep.
Well, it's interesting. It works on a macro level, thematically, between the clash between orthodoxy and Christianity versus more paganistic bacchanalian lifestyle. And then there's the smaller drama, there's the human drama, there's the interpersonal marital strife drama within it. So that's what's so interesting about it, is it's working on a variety of levels. And people will take from that, we all bring to the theater our own stories and our own perspectives, and people will bring to it what their experience is, and then they'll take from it what I think means the most to them.
The opera is sung in Polish entirely, and Lydia, Polish is not the easiest and not the most widely sung language. What kind of experience is that?
Well, I have experience singing in Russian and Czech, which are of course different than Polish, but at least I am intrigued by the Slavic languages, and I really like the way that they are in the voice, and very beautiful languages. I'm finding it to be very beautiful, and it's definitely a challenge. This is my first time, so I'm hoping that I will learn a lot and have a good Polish coach to help me. But I'm just honored to be the one chosen to do Roxana at this company, and to have this be my first time singing in Polish.
Yeah, the vowels to consonant ratio in Polish language is not the friendliest to begin with. Plus, there are some sounds that you're going to have to articulate that are super unusual for...
Well, and the part of Roxana actually lies quite high in the voice, a lot of high melodic sweeping gestures, and so figuring out how to be understood in those parts can be a little bit tricky,
Wow.
but
There's another challenge. The point in the opera that everybody's waiting for, in terms of Roxana's role, her aria in the second act. Wonderful lullaby, because it starts with quieting down King Roger's emotions, putting them to sleep. It's super challenging, and it's got to be sung in a hypnotic yet seductive way. How do you do that?
She does it very well.
Thank you. I think it's all about what comes before. So it's almost as if in that moment Roxana draws them into her world. And so I think that probably in the moment, in context of the piece, it's going to be about creating that energy, and that it's about creating a moment and then inviting everyone in. So it has to be very intimate, but again, it's difficult, it's high, there's a lot of orchestration that comes in, the choir comes in. And so I think it's just going to be a matter of creating the energy, and one by one these elements will enter, and keeping that intimacy and that lullaby feeling while the emotions, she's speaking of quieting his violent dreams, it's go to sleep bloody dreams.
Yes.
And so she's using a lot of imagery, violent imagery. So it's just about all of that passion, emotion, seduction, but just keeping it in this intimate energy. I think it's going to be a good challenge.
You have a monumental task in front of you, because everybody will be super close to you, watching your every single move. And I wonder what the director will ask you to do, because sometimes you have to dance, you have to join a larger choreography. How difficult those moments are for a singer like you?
For me, I think that thankfully, Szymanowski gave the right emotions and the right text, so that when we are asked to do those actions, it's going to empower the singing. I think that it will actually enable me to sing better, to follow what is happening in the score, because if you follow the correct emotion, then the voice will go into the correct place. That's my philosophy on singing in general, and I think that in this piece it really holds true.
Yeah.
The less I worry about, oh, let me sing that perfectly, and the more I really just think about how do I create this moment, I sing better.
And I think this is what audience really appreciates, the authenticity, the fact that you believe what you sing, and you put your entire self into that. This is what we are looking for. Yeah.
I completely agree. And that's always, as a singer, that's always the goal, and it's putting away one's ego and really trying to serve the piece and the drama of the moment, because it's for the audience.
Wow.
It's for all of you.
Lydia, you're an extremely versatile singer. If you go through your repertoire that you already have, it covers everything. What's your favorite? Do you prefer bel canto operas, or something that is more technically difficult and challenging, like King Roger?
They all have their place. I have done a lot of kind of all over the place, Verdi, Mozart, and I have to say my top favorites, my favorite piece that I do is Eugene Onegin, and I love that style of music, which, you know, it's not exactly the same, but it kind of led me on this path to find this
definitely in
type
the Slavic
of
area.
music.
Yeah.
Yes, and so I feel very at home in that, but I think bel canto also is just my other love. I love singing Verdi. I'm preparing a Verdi right now.
Oh, nice.
I love it so.
What are you working on?
I'll be singing Violetta in La Traviata,
Wow.
Utah opera. So I'll do that before I come to Des Moines.
So first you have to focus on your Violetta.
I'm focusing on both at the
And
same
then
time.
become Roxanne.
Yes.
Like most singers do, multiple roles happening at the same time.
Yes. But it's good because each technique for each, they inform each other. It keeps me very balanced.
Yeah, since you brought that up, being a soprano, operatic soprano, that's a super competitive environment, I bet, and extremely demanding. People demand perfection at every moment. How is it to be a prima donna?
It seems like you understand, yes. You know, I really believe that there's no competition except for with yourself, and I try very hard. It is difficult because the standard is high, and there are more sopranos, especially of my particular type. There are statistically more of them all competing for the same work. But what I try to focus on is what makes me unique and what do I have to bring to these roles. And I try really hard to just compete without competing and serve the music and serve the audience. And for me, this has worked really well to get over that anxiety of trying to be a prima donna instead of aspiring always to be the diva, you know, just focusing on the art and focusing on what makes me special and what I can bring, because each soprano is unique.
It's unique. It is, exactly. One more aspect, I think, it's for every artist, but for opera singers specifically, is being a nomad, essentially, because you have to travel so much and move from one place to another. Plant your roots for 2-3 months, then move on to the next commission. How does that work?
You know, I am a little bit new to that lifestyle. I've been only working full-time professionally for a year. So this has been my first year on the road, as it were, and I'm still getting used to it. There are challenges, but there's so much beauty. I try every time that I'm jet-lagged, tired, I want to be in my own bed, I try to just remember how lucky I am and how fortunate that I get to do this art as a career. And I wake up in beautiful cities like Chicago, and I try to get out there and just take it in and enjoy it while I can, because this is the life I dreamed of. So it has its challenges. But
We've departed from King Roger. Let's continue on that journey with one more question. Where did your opera journey start? Was it an aha moment? Did you hear, I don't know, Maria Callas sing and said, okay, I want to do that, or somebody kind of pointed you towards this career?
Well, when I was very young, I grew up in New Mexico, and so we had the Santa Fe Opera. My mom was an opera lover, so she took me to see the Santa Fe Opera. But I fell asleep. I wasn't a big fan at first. And then over the years, I studied music. I was planning to be a teacher. But in college, I got cast in the opera. And they gave me one night only performance. And it was Die Fledermaus, and I sang the role of Adele. And it was that night on the stage. I felt it. I felt that energy. Everything changed for me in that moment.
So there was this transformative moment.
Yes, I was just doing the opera for fun as part of the music. You know, I wanted to do music. I liked performing, but that was the moment I said, I think I'm going to try harder for this. I think I'm going to pursue this. Yes.
Great decision. Michael, you also have a huge career in producing opera, in managing opera. But let's talk about your opera story.
Oh my. I began as a singer, like I think most of the people in positions like mine, somehow as an artist, and then making the transition to producing or administration. I also had an experience of being in Fledermaus, but I was in the chorus, and I really liked that, and so I thought I would be a singer. And then one day I was singing a leading role that I really wanted to sing, and I was on stage singing an aria, and I thought, right in the middle of the performance, this is not for me. I enjoy the other parts of opera much more. I was thinking, because while I was singing, I was thinking about the set changes and the tickets being sold and all of the other things that were happening beyond the aria, and I was like, oh, I had that revelation right in the middle of singing on stage, and I was like, okay, make the transition from there, and so I did. And I've been really fortunate to be at a company where I can focus on producing pieces like this, like King Roger, and pursue a vision of sort of getting to check things off of my bucket list, pieces that have fascinated me since my student days as starting in this business, and wanting to falling in love with these pieces and then wanting to share them with audiences and with others. That's what I love most, and so it makes sense to do what I'm doing and to be fortunate enough to be able to mount a new production of King Roger. I mean, that's just, not many people get that opportunity, so I'm really grateful for that.
let's talk about the cast. I have printed out the names and the pictures of everybody, but Mike, I think I'll let you talk about who will be playing at least the principal roles.
There, as you mentioned, there are three really principal roles. It's almost the story of a love triangle in one way of looking at it. And of course, we spend a lot of time when we're casting productions really thinking about complex matrix of decisions. We want to feature important singers who are beginning to draw really important attention to themselves, like Lydia and others in the cast. And I keep my eye out on competitions and major conservatories and other places where big singers are coming. People who are going to have major careers are coming from, not just in the U.S., but from abroad. And so we have two other singers in the cast that kind of fit those bills. Alex Elliott is a wonderful baritone who has been with us for a number of roles, Yeletsky and the Queen of Spades, and Figaro and the Barber of Seville. And we wanted to do something for him that would really be a featured leading role. I know he'll be brilliant in the piece. And then a young American whose career has been primarily in Europe these last few years, also making a role debut. Everyone is singing these roles for the first time, but hopefully not the last. And the Shepherd will be sung by tenor Christopher Sokolowski, who, as I mentioned, is American singing overseas and really coming to a lot of attention, especially in the last year, in some bigger tenor, Helden tenor repertory, Wagner and Strauss and things like that. So, the Wagnerian singer, but you wouldn't guess it by looking at him, because I think he's the slenderest Wagner tenor I've ever seen, Wagnerian tenor I've ever seen.
You've got to give him some time.
Yes, well, yes, maybe. So, but those are our three leads, and then another Canadian-Dutch tenor, Lucas van Leerup, is singing Edrizi. Coming, I think, maybe making an American debut. I'm not sure about that. I double-checked that, but he'll be with us for that. And then a significant cast and chorus. And want to also mention that the production will be brand new. Most of our productions are brand new, so this isn't a touring production or something that will be seen
already somewhere.
So it's being created and designed completely new for our unique space. We have scenic designer Jimmy Stubbs, who's done a beautiful set for the production, and Robert Perziola, who's doing the costume design, has designed jaw-droppingly stunning costumes for this piece. So it will be worth it alone just to see the visuals. And the production is being led by our principal conductor, David Neely, who will lead a sizable orchestra, and conceived of by the stage director, Chaz Rader-Schieber, who's done a number of a wide variety of repertory for us, from The Love for Three Oranges to Platée to Pélias and Melisande. So.
And the director, costume designer, I think they play another principal role, especially in productions like King Roger. Yes, you have those three characters that ultimately going to fill the stage, but what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, how they're going to be presented is decided by someone else who is at least just as important.
It's true, and most directors come with many of the answers in mind as they design the production and come up with what it will look like in collaboration with the creative team. But the best ones also leave room for exploration of the story and what the singers, the artists who are doing the roles, bring to that. And certainly Chaz is one of those where everyone comes together and will find their way to the answers together, which is really the best way.
When I looked at the lineup, I was so hoping that Chris Sokołowski is of Polish descent. He has a very Polish last name. Do you know if he has any Polish blood?
I believe that is true, yes.
Awesome.
Yes, Polish-American.
Wonderful.
I believe that's true.
Lydia, I have to ask you, because your name sounds extremely Slavic. Do you have any Slavic blood?
No, it has to be so far back. Sadly, I can't really find anything in
Confirmed?
recent. No,
Yeah.
no. But I like to say that I was Slavic in a past life.
For sure. That is guaranteed. Wonderful. There's going to be what? 5 opportunities to see King Roger. The first one is on July 4th. July 12th performance is already sold out. You told me that we're being too close to announce that another is sold out.
Tickets will go fast, and we anticipate that the production will sell out. So folks shouldn't wait to get seats. They should make their travel plans. It isn't very far. You can
strongly encourage.
You can fly to Des Moines in less time than you can do most anything by car in Chicago. So it's easy to get there from here, and you can drive directly west from this area and arrive in Des Moines. So there's no chance of getting lost on winding roads or anything like that. You don't have to go through mountains. You just head west for a little bit.
We're meeting on a Friday afternoon, but yesterday you had a great meeting, great reception at the Polish Consulate in Chicago. Thank you for attending that. How was it? How was the experience at the consulate?
For me, it was just an absolute honor. I felt very warmly welcomed, and it was a little intimidating to sing the aria for the first time in front of a Polish audience, but everyone was so gracious, and it was really an honor for me.
Wonderful. Michael, let me circle back to the season that you have planned. It's going to be not just King Roger this year, it's also Tosca and Of Mice and Men. If you decide to go to Des Moines to see King Roger, you have to see the other 2 productions. Give us a brief summary of what we're going to see.
And that's what our many, if not most of all of our Chicago attendees do. They will come for a weekend. We help curate places to stay and things to do for folks when they're there. But it's a chance to really see 3 different operas in close proximity to one another in a really unique examination in that theater. And as I mentioned before, I adore putting together pieces in conversation with one another, particularly pieces of the first 2/3, let's say, of the 20th century, whether that's Slavic pieces or American pieces from maybe the golden age of American opera. So we have maybe the most wide-ranging contrast we've ever programmed between King Roger and new production with Houston Grand Opera of Carlisle Floyd's Of Mice and Men, based on the novella by John Steinbeck, celebrating the 100th anniversary of Carlisle Floyd's centennial, a major American person, probably the person who taught us how to write American operas in the middle part of the last century. So we're really honored to showcase what I think is his greatest work, and comparing and contrasting between that and King Roger. And then, of course, one of the greatest opera classics of all time, Tosca, with a terrific cast. Also, both of those productions in new productions as well, new sets, costumes, and freshly conceived for our space. So it's really a special experience to interact with a variety of cultural opportunities all at one weekend.
Des Moines Metro Opera.org, and that's the place where you should go. That web address is in the description of this conversation, and right there in front of you. So go to that URL and get the tickets to King Roger and to other productions as soon as possible, because those will fly fast. Thank you so much. We as a community are very honored every time King Roger is chosen to be performed, and every time he's performed. So thank you so much for making that decision. Thank you so much for dedicating time to learning to sing in Polish and creating yet another rendition of Roksany. I have zero doubts in my mind that it's going to be wonderful. Thank you so much. And again, I appeal to you, ladies and gents, go there if you've never been. It's one of a kind opportunity to experience 3 wonderful operas in a unique settings. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.